Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Eyebite.
Chomp, 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 chomp.
This, for the past couple of editions, this always seemed like just a. I never really looked into it because it's called Eyebite, and I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
The imagery I always get is upsetting. I'm thinking like your eyes get replaced with mouths, and that's always upsetting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm
it's
just
a sixth level. Yeah, exactly, and I hate that. This is a sixth level necromancy spell for bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards. So a lot of people get it, which I'm like, why? Why do so many people get this enigma of a little spell? It takes an action to cast. It's got range of self, which is like, so you're not biting other people's eyes. Your eyes are doing the biting.
Or
Concentration
you're
up to a minute.
biting your own eyes, which is a lot to ask from
That's
your
true.
mouth.
It's far reach. Anyway, concentration up to a minute. So concentration is important. For the spell's duration, your eyes become an inky void imbued with dread power. I don't know
Whoa.
what it has to do with biting things, but we'll continue. One creature of your choice within 60 feet of you that you can see makes a whiz save or be affected by one of the following effects for the duration. Neat. On each of your turns until the spell ends, you can spend actions to target a different creature, and it makes a save against one of those following effects. Which is neat. If it ever succeeds on a save, it's immune to the effect for the whole duration of it. So, like, you pick one creature one round, and you pick another creature the next round, and you can't go back to the first creature. The modes that you get to pick between there are three of them. There's a sleep. It just drops the target unconscious, and if something shakes it awake or damages it, it wakes up. That's pretty neat. Panicked, the creature turret is frightened of you. On each of its turns, it makes a dash action to move away from you to the safest available route. If the target moves to a place at least 60 feet away from you where it can no longer see you, the effect ends. So like this one has got a very clear gate. If it gets 60 feet away from you, it can't see you, it's done. And then finally, the last mode is Sickened. It gets disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. At the end of each of the turns, it makes another whiz save, ending the effect early. So this is the only one that ends the effect early with a save repeatedly at the end of each turn. Panic does it on a specific condition, and Asleep just happens until it wakes up. So again, basically, you cast a spell, and whenever you cast it, you choose one of Asleep, Panic, or Sickened, and a creature within 60 feet of you. That creature makes a save against your picked chosen effect. Every turn after that, you can do the same thing. You can pick someone, make them make the save. Pick someone, make them make the save. I've never seen someone cast this spell. I can understand why.
Oh, you don't like it?
I don't think it's. I think it's. I think it's ambitious, and I think that for save or dies, this is how I kind of want them to be. I want them to be like, if they pass the first one, you're still getting more out of it down the road. You can still reuse it when you want to. I just don't love most of the conditions that much, and a 6th level spell is kind of a tall order.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna get a save or die that affects multiple creatures, I want it to be something like a area of effect that does it all at once. Like I can't see this being super useful. Like you can't go back to the same creature again. So if
Yeah.
goes to sleep, he wakes up. All right, well that's the end for him. You have to have for this. I mean, how long is the duration of
It's
a
a minute.
concentration? Up to a minute.
So this is like one fight.
Yeah, it just feels like you have to really have a lot of people or a lot of enemies that aren't otherwise easy to kill that for this to be worth it. I don't
So
know.
I run to the wall where like, so for Asleep, I think that's the mode that's probably best here because that's the mode that isn't necessarily easy to get otherwise. So the sleep spell is based off of dice, and this is going to be
Hmm.
based off a saber die. So that's going to be vaguely better against bigger things. You can be like, okay, I want this thing to go to sleep right now, and the giant falls asleep. And then as long as no one touches it, you can just keep going around and putting things to sleep, right? That's decent. Panicked, Fear is just better than this, right? Fear is a minute save. It's a 30-foot cone, granted, but everything makes the save immediately, drops all of their things, and then flees from you. That seems far more impactful than one individual panicked at a time does, right? I'm
Yeah.
way more interested in that effect, and that's half the level of this. And then finally, the second effect, disadvantage on tackles and ability checks can be happen in any number of ways. The poison condition is a really easy way to do that. Cloud Kill can do that for you. You can get other Stinking Cloud does that at a way lower level. And again, it'll immediately affect everything in the area. It doesn't have to be one at a time, which means you're going to have better ways to do the bulk conditional thing, which means this is something where you want to go like, one thing right now, scoot 3 turns later, one thing again, scoot 2 turns later, one thing again, and have like the selective choice. And I just don't see that being that realistic to ever happen. Especially
No,
for just a minute duration.
and concentration. I mean, if okay, one guy's asleep, and then like I said, for this to be worth it, you want to be facing off against a bunch of creatures, I think. And if you're
Like
only
2 or 3,
attack,
I would say, right?
well,
It
then
can't
you're
be a
only getting
bunch.
2 or 3 uses, and
Imagine only
that's
you're spending 3 rounds doing that.
yes, that's not making me feel any better about it. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around when you would want to cast this.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you're not attacking multiple creatures with it, then there's any number of better things you could be doing.
So like maybe this is you're going against 2 things, and the first one you drop it and make it go asleep, and then its buddy spends an action to wake it up, and then you waste its buddy action putting it asleep, and then its buddy wakes it up, and then you've gone through like this little gimmicky 4-action eating saber die thing for a 6th level slot. That doesn't seem
Well,
great.
no, then I mean, it feels like all right. Well, for this guy to wake up, he's asleep, he's missing his turn. His friend has to, wake him up. He's missing his turn, but you use your turn doing that, so
Yeah,
it all evens
it's
out.
like 1 turn for 2 turns is a pretty good deal, unless that creature that is being woken up is going after the person, in which case it just is a 1-for-1, and you don't love that.
Is it a 6th level good deal?
No, it's not more close. That's like not a good 1st level deal. Also, like in that exact situation, I cast Hold Monster over this every time, right? Hold Monster paralyzes a thing. That seems way better than this, and that's a spell level lowered. And like that's only 1 thing, granted. But if you can't wait, I lied, because you can upcast Hold Monster, then it affects 2 things. So then you have a 6th level spell slot that's holding 2 things that are both paralyzed, or at least one's paralyzed, and then you just kick the shit out of it, or you kick shit out of the other one, and then the held one. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I like this conceptually. I think the duration needs to be like an hour for it to even start to be reasonable.
well, that's you're asking a lot, going from a minute to an hour.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, like consider like if you were to say this affects 5 encounters or it affects 3 encounters versus this affects an encounter, then we're looking at a spell that's like, okay, I want to saber die 2 or 3 times an encounter, but I don't want to spend 7 spell slots on that. This would be a way to get that. I think that could be novel.
I mean, I agree with you. That might make this worth it, but yeah, because then because I feel like I'm getting ripped off. I'm not going to be able to use this more than twice probably.
And you're gonna have to want to use it more than twice, right? You're gonna have to want to do this over casting other spells. You're gonna have to want to do this over taking other actions. And these actions aren't. I mean, they're fine. Asleep is great. Second is meh. I don't know. Panic is definitely, I think, the worst one, but it's not that bad either. The problem is like fear exists though, and cause fear exists, and both those are definitely better than this.
Yeah, I agree. This I feel like I've read good things about this. I wish I would have read those before we did this video, but I did not.
I recall writing about this and writing about it in a way that was like, I like how it's presented. I like the idea of casting it. I don't think it's reasonable in its current form or worth it is the only issue, right? Like I like the idea of a spell that gives you extra saber dies that you would want to make over a long period of time. It makes the spell feel less bad to use. I just don't think what you're getting out of it justifies a 6th level spell slot or anywhere close to a 6th level spell slot. I think this is something that needs to be either lower level or have a longer duration before it can start to be something that's like actually reasonable.
I like saber dies that affect multiple targets because it doesn't feel like you wasted your turn. But this feels like the opposite. This gives you the potential to waste multiple turns.
Yeah.
Because if
I don't know.
saber die, oh, didn't work. I'll try it again. Oh, didn't work again. Crap, why am I still using this spell?
I mean, 60 foot is a pretty long range, and if you ever get 2 things to fail, I think it's probably worth the slot. And I don't think that's necessarily a super tall order. I think that you could probably play with the spell and find it feels fine and find it feels fair. I just don't know if fair is in the realm of where you want your saber dice to be because it's not really the point of them. I think like we're kind of just glossing over the conditions that they are doing because we're saying, well, other things can do it. And I think other things can do it is definitely true in the fear case. I think other things can't really do the asleep thing, and that is pretty reasonable. An unconscious creature, oh god, I have to look up unconscious. I think you crit a creature if you damage it while it's unconscious. And if that's the case, right, like when you drop something asleep and then you crit it, that's pretty good. And then you can do that against multiple creatures. So you're setting up your rogue to just nuke things, you're setting up your paladin to just nuke things. There's definitely applications for this spell. I don't want to say this spell is atrocious, unusable. It's definitely really clunky. It's definitely a spell that's really, I like conceptually. I like the idea of getting a long duration series of saves. I don't know if it necessarily delivers on that fantasy in a way that it needs to justify a 6th level spell slot.
No. Yeah, I'm not as impressed with it even as you are, and you're
I'm not
clearly
super impressed with it.
All right, and I'm less so. I just keep coming back to it needs something else. Like all right, now, am I correct? If you cast it, I try to put a creature to sleep. It makes the save. I don't get to cast on that creature again?
Correct. I'll
That
double check,
kills it
but I
for
believe
me.
that's the case. But you can pick a different one.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, that's the nature of Saber Sucks, right? Is you cast on the thing, if it passes, you go balls. And this gives you at least a second shot if it's against a different creature. So you're not like, well, I'm entirely out of a spell. I mean, I think I'd still rather have, like I said earlier, hold monster and be like, okay, 2 things Saber Suck now.
Yeah.
That's definitely better.
You're still, even if you fail both of them, you're still only wasting 1 turn.
Failing multiple turns does feel really, really terrible. If you're like, make a save, balls, make a save, balls, make a save. Oh, this doesn't do anything. That's gotta be a frustrating feeling. But to its credit, most of the time things are failing your saving throws, especially when they're wisdom based, especially when they're monsters, especially in the tier you're getting this because you have +5 mods, you got nice robust spell save DCs that most of the time creatures are failing. So like this will consistently hit more often than not. That is meaningful to it. It's not going to necessarily hit the really, really good things more often than not, but it's going to hit things that you would be willing to spend a spell to hit multiple things over multiple occasions to do it. This is probably a neat little like alley-oop that you throw whenever you have a paladin in the group. You want to be like, everyone make the paladin amazing. Or this little nice little like, this rogue is going to utterly decimate that thing. Great. It's asleep. Kill it. And then on top of that, you can also just keep lining the rogue up, right? Put one thing sleep rogue kills it, put the one sleep rogue kills it. There's probably some play pattern in here that's decent. I definitely don't think it's justifies the spot of the majority of character sheets.
The thing is, another thing, sleep is probably the best option, but for the fantasy, it's the one that makes the least amount of sense. If my eyes go inky black, I want either the person I'm staring at to be terrified of me or to start throwing up and that sort of thing.
I think a lot of Eyebite doesn't make a lot of sense.
If they fall asleep, I feel like I failed hard.
I'm not terrifying enough that you just fall asleep before me. How dare you? Sorry, I thought I was intimidating. You? Yeah, honestly, that's what it absolutely feels like.
Well, you got anything else to say about it? I mean, I think we're gonna hit hard in the comments with this one.
I tried to pull it back because I definitely was getting very much down on it.
I think you made a good case for it. I mean, I guess it could be all right.
I think there will be people that have no problem using it. I don't think the spell is robustly powerful. I think this is a direction that Saber Dice should start moving towards. I just think it needs a lot of tweaking. I think we need to see a lot of these spell effects change from being a one and done, outrageous powerful game warping entire encounter is shifted because the dragon's gone effect to more meaningful, smaller dose, consistent, repeatable usage control elements. I think that's better. I think it'll feel less volatile and it'll make full casters feel a little bit better about their like it's a save or nothing happens effects as long as they can get more out of them. This is, I think, a good baseline to build from in the future. I hope they do that. I don't think they will, but I hope they do.
All right, well, you got a rating for it?
I think this is a 2. I think In some tables, you can do some neat little weapons dice with it. I think that's not most tables. I don't think most tables are going to be planning out that goes to sleep so the rogue crits it, that goes to sleep the paladin crits it, this gets so afraid and I get to eat a bunch of actions. You make the tabaxi run away and it like sprints 5 times its speed away and then it has to take 3 rounds to get back to you, right? Like there'll be some niche cases where you can make all the effects decent. I think for the most part you're going to stick to this like this bog standard saber dice like Cold Monster. I think you're going to find that you're going to get a lot more robust options out of your fears and stuff. I don't think this can justify 6 spell shot on most people's sheets.
Yeah. Ooh, I guess I'm gonna give it a 2 as well. All right, lay into us, commenters. Tell us what we missed.
I mean, if you, consider if you ever get 2 sleeps and no one wakes them up, this is really busted. This is like a guaranteed 2 things locked down, no problem whatsoever, really good. And that's kind of the floor. And we rate management polymorph really highly here, so like that should be indicative that this is at its minimum. While may not be as good as those, it's still fine.
All right, well, that was Eyebite. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.